Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss about a general topic, so that is United Nations. So in this class we are going to discuss about the birth of the United Nations, how it was organized and the first time who established this type of the organization after two world wars. Okay? So let's come to the topic. So the United Nations is an international organization of the countries. It means when we are calling any body or any organization is an international organization, it comprised with so many countries, so there's so many countries involvement is there, so that's why we are calling international organization. Okay, so it was founded to promote the world peace and cooperation. So just we have to get the world peace and cooperation only, just it is United Nations was organized. Okay, so it was founded after World War II. Okay, so the main aim of the United Nations is to promote the world peace and maintain the world peace and cooperation, and it also helps in encouraging the business and international trade also. So United Nations provides a forum for countries to promote their views and settle conflicts between the countries without violence. Just it want to get the peace and without violence, just it has to give some solutions whenever the countries are fighting with each other, whenever there are some disputes or conflicts between them. Okay, so it also allows the countries to solve the major world problems like poverty, diseases, and environmental degradation, especially these important solutions only. So the United Nations is providing some important solutions to each and every country in the world. Okay, it promotes economic and social progress in developing countries. It helps to coordinate the work of agencies and programs. So within the United Nations organization, so there are so many agents are working, and there are so many programs will be implemented under the United Nations umbrella. Okay, so both within its own organization and outside its organizations also, it has to work with complete and perfect perfection. Okay, so let's come to the birth of the United Nations, how it was organized and when it was organized. Okay, so the Industrial Revolution was started in England, and especially it was spread to other nations also, like Germany, France, Portugal, etc. Okay, so these industrialized countries needed two things. So those things are, first one is the raw materials, especially raw materials for the manufacturing the goods. Okay, and new markets for selling those important manufactured items or products. They wanted to get the new markets for selling those goods. Okay, so these two important needs turned the entire world into the world wars. Okay, so in search of the two needs, raw materials and the new markets, so they got both their purposes solved in the non-industrialized Asian or African countries. Okay, so whenever they're searching for the markets and raw materials, they solve they solve their problems by seeing the non-industrialized countries. In the particular time, non-industrialized countries are the Asian continent and African continent. Okay, so here they started colonizing these countries to make themselves wealthy. Okay, so they started to draining the wealth from these continents, and they created these as the colonies. Okay, so as a result, they became jealous of each other, and they wanted to their own empires to flourish. Okay, so not only acquiring the raw materials and the new markets, but they wanted to occupy or acquiring some new territories where they are getting the raw materials. So this is a jealous thing which was came from the other countries, especially western countries. Okay, so other reasons, they started fighting with each other just to get the authority or a supreme power on those Asian and African countries. Okay, so this was led to the Great War, that is 1914 to 18. This was the first world war. Almost 4 years it was happened. Okay, so here many cities were devastated, and millions of innocent people and soldiers lost their lives and lost their houses and families. Okay, so result was a scarcity of food and everything they lost. Okay, because of the wars, there was a scarcity of war. Okay, So this was the idea of Immanuel Kant in the 18th century. It means in 1795 year. So German philosopher Immanuel Kant, he had proposed a federation or league of world's nations. Okay, so especially United Nations. At present we are calling the United Nations, but this was the idea of Immanuel Kant. So he was a German philosopher in 1795. So Kant believed that so he believed that such a federation would enable the countries to unite and be able to punish other nations which committed an act of aggression. Whenever a country behaves like aggressive manner, so that country also will be punishable by remaining countries. And it was one of the important organization or federation for getting the united. Okay. And he believed that it would be protected the small nations rights also. So the Kant's ideas they came to life after World War I. So countries were inspired to come together and work towards peace. So whenever there was a great and it was very they lost so many lives and even they got injuries also in that particular World War I after. So the so many countries were came together and they worked towards peace. Okay, so they formed the League of Nations to achieve that goal. Okay, so here they formed League of Nations, especially total 63 member nations and world's greatest powers like Japan, USSR, France, UK, Italy, and Germany. Okay, so these are the famous countries involved in the League of Nations. The first time the United Nations was called as the League of Nations. Okay. But here the League of Nations was not successful because it has two major flaws. It means two major mistakes or some small mistakes. So that is first one is the world's one of the world's most powerful countries was USA, United States of America. It was not a member of the League of Nations. So this is the one mistake why it was not successful. And League of Nations, the members of League of Nations, total 63 members, they were not willing to oppose aggression by the Japan, Italy, and Germany in 1930s. Okay, so this is the second mistake why the League of Nations was not successful. Okay. So this aggression led to the Second World War, so 1939 to 1945. So here the league was failed, but the idea of the league didn't die. Okay, so especially in 1941 US President Franklin D. Roosevelt and plus British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, so they both signed the Atlantic Charter, so in which they pledged to work towards a more effective system just to maintain the world peace and promotion of the cooperation. So here the charter is nothing but a legal law that we should follow. So Atlantic Charter is very powerful. So here two important and famous persons were signed on the Atlantic Charter. So first one is US President Franklin D. Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Okay. In 1942, representatives of the allies groups and Axis groups. Okay, allies groups. Okay, so the World War II, the coalition of the 26 countries. So they started fighting against Germany and Japan. Okay, so in 1942, the representatives of the allies groups they accepted the principles of the Atlantic Charter, even though the 26 countries they started fighting against Germany and Japan. Okay. In 1943, so after 1 year of the Atlantic Charter, so four out of the 26 allies, so those are the United States and UK, United Kingdom, USSR, China. So they agreed to establish a general international organization. And in 1944, also the four countries met at the Dumbarton Oaks states, so in Washington DC, and they drafted a charter for the new organization and they called this new league as United Nations also. Okay, so even though so after 19 it means in the year of 1945 August 6th and the 9th, so US dropped two atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki of the Japan. So and especially 1945, so there was a birth of the United Nations after the bad conditions in 1945. Okay. In 24th October 1945, so United Nations was born and it was named and coined by the President Roosevelt, so USA. A set of rules and regulations called Charter of United Nations. It means there are some rules and regulations which are consisted in the Charter of United Nations that we should follow each and every country who was a member of a particular United Nations. So each and every country they should follow those rules and regulations which are in the Charter of the United Nations. Okay, so especially here it was made in the conference of the San Francisco, USA, and finally it was signed by the 50 member countries. India also included in 24th October 1945. So this day is celebrated as the United Nations Day. Okay, UN Day. So United Nations was founded and to promote peace and prevent another world war. Okay, so just it was a encouragement of the United Nations because of the there was increasing level of the encouragement of the United States. So that's why the headquarters was in the New York City of United States. Okay, so here it was almost signed by 50 member countries in that 1945 when it was born. And the veto powers, the most important powers were given to five major powers. So those are United States, United Kingdom, Soviet Union, France, and China. It means each and every problem, so they should cancel. They have the power to cancel such laws, or they can pass those laws. Okay, so such power was remains with the five countries. Those are known as veto power countries, major powers. Five big powers also we can call. Okay, so this is all about the birth of the United Nations. So in the next class we'll discuss about the main important principles and objectives of the United Nations, and the important agencies also, and important bodies, organs also. Okay, thank you.